Hey everybody, welcome back to Turn Bark Time. I'm the Turn.
I'm the Bart.
We're going to be here a long time, although our Super Bowl predictions will not. Sorry, for those of you who checked our story, if you betted on what we said, sorry.
There's a reason that we still teach.
Yep. Professional gambling is not in our future. But this would be season 4, episode Niner. Can I get a Niner in there, Barker? Were you calling from a walkie-talkie?
Breaker.
Yeah. Now, Barker, I do have a surprise for you.
Uh-oh.
I have a trivia question for you at the end of Turnbark Time. So do not let me forget my question at the end of Turnbark Time, since we did not do our Super Bowl history episode, but I have a Super Bowl fact for you that is going to see if you know this or not. So
super-de-duper.
I know, right? Barker texted me, guys, today, and I was so excited about this. So he asked if we were going to do the Super Bowl, or, Barker, what was your ingenious idea?
This came up as a conversation with a student, I think. And it was the idea of because kids are great at geography, which is the understatement of the century.
Yes, so understated.
Is that, like, we know that Wakanda's not real. Y'all might not.
Hopefully do know that Wakanda's not real.
The government sometimes doesn't, apparently, either. But the question was, if Wakanda was real, where in Africa would Wakanda be?
I like it. So, way I approach this question is I kind of looked at and said, okay, based on the product that makes Wakanda rich and everything like that, vibranium, right? I almost said unobtainium, but I can't get that on that planet. I have to go to a different planet to get unobtainium.
Avatar.
Yep. I have to go to, I want to call it Pandora, but I don't think that's right.
I think that is right, actually.
Pandora? Okay, cool.
I think that's what the colonizers called it.
But the Navi people probably called it something different. Anyway, so I broke it down and I said, okay, based on Africa's as a continent is rich in natural resources. So what type of natural resource is going to reflect vibranium or be similar to it? And how are you going to be able to hide an entire civilization from the modern world? And so that is kind of how we broke this down. Now, Barker has a more detailed, phenomenal answer, and it's probably because Barker has seen Wakanda Forever, the newest Black Panther movie. I have not. I'm letting my team down, but I still do Wakanda Forever. So, which is still one of my favorite things, favorite intros from a Monday Night Football game. Michael Bennett introduced himself and then said Wakanda Forever, which I thought was great. So, Barker, why don't we start with yours, because it's going to be more detailed, more thorough, right, than my mini investigation I conducted.
So, one of the ways to try and identify and place it is to look at, like, culture. And visually, Wakanda is an amalgamation of a number of different clothing styles from a variety of different cultures across Africa. And I spent some time listening and reading articles from Ruth Carter, who's the costume designer.
Oh, okay. That's good.
She actually, like, went through and was like, hey, like, the neck rings come from a culture in South Africa. The scarification is from a variety of different African areas. The headdress that the queen wears is a Zulu headdress. This tribe, what was it? The mining tribe has hints of, like, tribes from, like, Kenya and like Tanzania mixed with, like, Namibia. So it, in a way, like, I really appreciate when people make up fantasy things. Like, it goes back to, like, for me, like, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
When they made Lord of the Rings, like, they literally sat down and said, what if Vikings had horses? And then made, like, the Riders of Rohan, like, out of that culture, like, and took Nordic elements or Norse elements and then combined it with, like, nomadic, kind of like Central Asiatic, right, steppe people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like made this like cool like love baby from that.
Right.
And so like visually, it's really hard to kind of like give Wakanda like a location based on like, because it is such a variety of cultures in the way that they dress. And I would say that Wakanda Forever is a large part of my, I guess, my justification for my answer.
Okay.
So and I'm not sure if in Black Panther they spoke this or not, but in Wakanda Forever, when they the Wakandans are having conversations, so like Okoye is talking to like the queen, like, and like they get really, it's kind of interesting too, because like they normally talk in English because it's to, that's what we understand. But
Yeah.
like when they get really emotional, they will kick into and they speak, and I'm not going to pronounce this right because I'm not from South Africa. Osa, or like most people who can't speak it would say Kosa, but like in some, like in my AP World Book, it's spelled with a KH, but in a lot of other stuff revolving around Black Panthers, it's an XH, because like it actually starts with like a click like in your like the back of your mouth.
Okay.
And it's actually one of the languages that Trevor Noah speaks.
Okay.
Because like he's from South Africa, and like that was the language of, I think, is it that his mom spoke.
Okay.
It's her in like dialect and whatnot and stuff. And so it's a Bantu based language, but it only exists today in South Africa. And so I'm like, if the people of Wakanda are speaking Kosa, like it's geographically like limited. Like it's not like they're speaking like, I don't even know, because like we don't understand that Africa is one of the most like linguistically like diverse.
Yeah.
I think it's second behind like Asia, just because Asia's ginormous.
Well, and they have dialects that are just within a single language, multiple different dialects, where Africa has probably different tribal languages, right?
Yeah. I think people have been in Africa for so long that like the division between cultures is like so small and nuanced that like the outside perspective, like I don't think we do enough justice to it, but it would take like an entire year just to like the study of like West Africa or Central Africa.
Right.
But my answer is, I think largely because they speak Kosa, is that Wakanda should be somewhere in what I would call like South Central Eastern Africa. And like my knee-jerk reaction when I was talking about it today with somebody at one of the other teachers in my building, and I said that, like, I was like, lake, it's got to be somewhere in the lakes near Malawi, because like there's lakes right around the city, and I'm like, it's got to be somewhere in like Malawi. Plus it's kind of like they show kind of like the quote unquote safari animals.
Yeah.
And so like if you go to northern Malawi, like it butts up against Tanzania, and Tanzania is like, that's like their main,
Yeah, they're the big five.
like economic resource is like safari.
Yeah.
And so like I looked at it from a linguistic perspective, and kind of said like linguistically, like that's what really limits like where they're coming from. And so like one of what tribe is it? The border tribe. So the border tribe in Black Panther in Wakanda uses Lesotho like blankets, like that, the blankets that they flip over that turn into shields, like are inspired and like lifted from the culture of Lesotho, which we would look at like and say Lesotho if we didn't know how to pronounce things the right way. And so like it's really interesting because like when I looked at it, Marvel Comics has a couple of different answers. Like it says equatorial Africa, and my pick is slightly sub-equatorial but still tropical.
Yeah.
And then there was another Marvel Atlas #2 said that it was on the lake, was it Turkana, which is kind of in between South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, and Ethiopia. So it's a little bit further. So like my pick is the southernmost pick. I would say the Marvel Atlas pick is like the top pick. And then there is another guy, is it Nahisi Coates, is writing some other like novelizations, I think, of Black Panther, and he says it's somewhere around Lake Victoria.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of that tends to put it in more of kind of East Africa, as opposed to putting it in, I think a lot of like other people have said like people I talked to at my building said like West Africa, but
okay. And see, that was where I let off like that. That logic makes a lot more sense, and I obviously wish I would have had time to dive more into it, and kind of go over it. Because I think of like I almost think of like Central Africa, like the DRC. Sorry, Democratic Republic of the Congo. For those of you who don't know, and that's where I started. And I was like, just in the DRC, it would be hidden, still tropical. But when I thought of like, and I've only seen a couple of the Black Panthers, like, so I've only seen Wakanda a couple times, like on this, how it's been portrayed on the screen. And it's kind of more of a grassland with waterfalls and stuff like that. But I guess I'm going to change my answer. So my original answer, I guess I'll tell you, was going to be in the country of what is modern day like Niger. And yes, we've had multiple kids pronounce that incorrectly for a negative connotation. But thought process being they harvest uranium there. It's one of the main areas that uranium is available in the world. And so vibranium, obviously, although have you ever looked at the chemical structure of vibranium?
no, but it comes from a meteorite, so it's not really like
Right, but is it one of those where like you could take plutonium 238 and like bump it down to uranium 235 and like make a bomb out of it? You know what I mean? Like how we did back in the day. Um, but anyway, that was my thought process. But now I think about it, I'm gonna stick with the central part of Africa. I'm gonna go to the DRC, and I'd probably lean like if they say equatorial based on your readings. I would say closer to the northern side. It's like North Democratic Republic of Congo. And for those of you who don't know, if you're looking at a map of Africa, it's like literally throw a dart almost to the dead center of what it would look like.
Would you dare say the Central African Republic?
No, because that's not their name. So, but yes, the Central African Republic is the other name, guys, for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That gives you the Congo River. That gives you like a bunch of other elements there. And when we talk about it, like the minute I think of like Dr. Livingston, right? Like, Dr. Livingston, I presume, right? Being found in the middle of freaking nowhere. So I'm going to go with that one, I think, because who knows what goes undiscovered in there, right? Africa gets labeled early on as the dark continent, and it has nothing to do with the people's color of skin that they're living there. It's literally our lack of knowledge about Africa's interior. And again, one of the things that's very interesting when we talk about enslaved persons like being brought to the United States, we talk about West Africa. How far in West Africa did they go? Right? A lot of people didn't leave like the port really, and tribes would actually sell slaves to Europeans to then bring over to the New World as enslaved persons. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go the Central African Republic, but formerly known as that, but the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I think it's going to be right in there. And I know I'm saying that's one of the biggest countries in Africa, which, by the way, just shout out to my leadership class. There are 54 countries in Africa, right? So it has the most countries per continent. So please don't call Africa a country. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
It is indeed a continent.
Yep.
And one of the other things like about it, like listening to Ruth Carter talk about like costume design, like they did a great deal of like they took, I felt like a lot of the influence, I don't know, like because like there is like kente cloth, which is more kind of West African, but like I felt like a lot of the stuff that they specifically tried to like call out and then like kind of take traditional but then modernize was or did tend to be like more East African kind of cultures. Okay. So like things from like Sudan and Ethiopia and then down through like the Maasai who like live in like the grasslands and whatnot. Right. And it's just like that's the vibe I get, I guess. You know what I mean? And that it's the vibe of it. It's the vibe.
It's the vibe.
It's the Constitution, it's Marbo, it's the vibe. And I could also be like influenced by the fact that we grew up watching Zulu and Zulu Dawn and Shaka Zulu.
That would play a part in because that was one of the things you watched a ton of. So
yeah, and then like they also talked about like the Dora Milaje, like the female warriors were inspired by like the female warriors of like the Dahomey Kingdom in Benin. which again is part of West Africa.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. And I
Would you say, like, in any of your readings, was the goal to try and encompass as much of African culture as possible in terms of, like, and I know that's a very broad statement, but was the goal to pull from East, Central, South, West, and try and bring that all together into a celebration of all African cultures? Like, did you see that at all when you were looking at your readings?
I think they didn't. So I think it was done in a way, yes, to yeah, to draw and like to pay homage, like and honor like all of those
Right.
different cultures.
Yeah.
And I think for a vast amount of education, like Africa gets overlooked, and like I think like for me, like I think like Ethiopia is like one of the most like underappreciated gems. Like everybody knows about the ancient Egyptians, but like for most things, if you didn't know, like things that are like, I guess what we say, trans-Saharan, like people think North Africans really like when you talk about like a lot of African culture, like those really aren't considered quote unquote African cultures. Those are considered more Middle Eastern
Right.
cultures
Arabian.
because of the migration of the Arabs across North
Yeah.
Africa to Spain. Um, and so it's really like the sub-Saharan cultures
Yeah.
are the ones, and so like even the Egyptians talked about like the Nubians, and then so like Nubians would be like modern day Sudan.
Yeah.
And so I just think that it's kind of it. And I remember when Black Panther came out, like it was such a huge celebration
Mhm.
and like such a positive image
Yeah.
for Black people, like just in America to be like, yeah, like we totally appreciate this, and to get people to open up and look at it, and like I hope people look at it with more detail than going, well, it's the Marvel superhero movie,
Right.
but to kind of like unpack and go, like, the women who have the ochre, like, oh shoot, where is it from? Is it from the Himba? The people of Namibia, like they take like shea butter and like red ochre and make a paste and then like cover their bodies in it and then they cover their like hair in it. And at the very bottom, like they leave their hair natural. So it like has like these looks like a poof, like a plumage, but it's actually their hair. It's just not covered in this
Right.
like other like red substance that they put all around them. And so like it just really it shows the craftsmanship, the variety, as well as kind of the intricacy of all of these different cultures and like puts them together. Yeah, and I think it really is kind of this celebration of a kind of a pan-African
Yeah.
celebration. Um, and then it also kind of I think it's also done in a way to make it so you can't put Wakanda like
Anyway.
everything's not Zulu based, and so you say, well, they're obviously somewhere in South Africa because everything's from South Africa.
Right.
And so it kind of, I guess it begs the question: did in the Marvel universe is Wakanda responsible for the dissemination of all of that culture, or
Interesting.
is Wakanda created by like unifying all of that
Ooh.
culture? You know what I mean? Like, is this kind of like a chicken and an egg?
Yeah. Although no, see, because in my mind, it's the latter. It's the coming together of all those cultures because it's that thought process of if the tribes of Africa or the civilizations of Africa had united, what would Africa be like today? And harness those resources to I mean, I'm thinking capitalists right now, but like if they would harness those resources to further economic gains, um, what would they be? And Wakanda could almost symbolize that partnership.
But it's interesting too because there is kind of a, I know you haven't seen the newest movie, but like in that movie there is kind of an anti Wakanda is not about, like one of their concerns is like we're not here to try and make money off vibranium. Like vibranium is what gives us power and like allows us to live the life we live and to be, for lack of a better term, isolationists.
Yeah.
Like we're not concerned about what vibranium does. We're concerned about what you would do with vibranium
Okay.
because and it there is a lot of you know, like I don't know, and I don't subscribe to like every movie has a message, every movie has influences, and like
Hold on. Time out. Time out. Time out. Time out. I'm sorry. When I'm exhausted and it is currently, I don't know, like let's call it 9 p.m. in New York City, watching Lion King on stage, my childhood favorite. Barker, what was the line that you said during the intermission?
The Lion King is a oh shoot, what's the word? An allegory for the repatriation of Africa to the Africans and the
Okay.
kicking out of the European colonizers.
Yes. Anyway, continue. But Barker doesn't subscribe that everything has a message. Anyway, keep going.
And some people just think that American Tail's about a funny little mouse that moves from Russia for no reason,
Also fair.
which I use as a huge talk about anti-Semitism and
Yeah.
the plight of the Jewish
Yeah.
peoples of Europe, which people are like, oh, didn't realize that that's what that was about. And it's like, yeah, because you just watched it as a kid and thought it was,
Yep. There's cats everywhere, man.
yeah, there's cats everywhere and some catchy tunes. But anyway, like I really think like the language piece was huge for me.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why I said it's got to be somewhere near South Africa, but like because of the waterfalls and because of
Yeah.
that kind of like variety of geography that it had, I was like, where is a good place that would have like waterfalls,
Right.
lake? And so that's why I thought about like Malawi and
No, I like it.
Tanzania, which really isn't that far off. And I mean, like they have like in the comic book, they say that it's near Mohanda, uh, it's either Canaan or Canaan,
Okay.
uh, Zana- Azania, and Naganda, which is like taking like in my mind like Niger, or Nigeria, and like Uganda, and like slamming those names together, which would lead you like if you're like, well, if it's halfway between like Nigeria and halfway between Uganda, that would be like the DRC.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense because like you said, like even from a biodiversity standpoint, like we make discoveries of new animals in
Mhm.
Central Africa like all the time in these jungles where you would have thought we've been and found everything. Just like when Europeans showed up and the people of the DRC were like, yeah, there's giant angry monkey things. And they're like, no, that's where the gold is. And you're lying to us. And then we went up there and they're like, holy crap.
They're
Like there are
giant.
these like
Thanks.
very angry giant monkey things. And then luckily people that are amazing like Jane Goodall went up there and we got a much better understanding of what was going on.
Exactly. Exactly.
So there you have it. So
If you think we're wrong, prove us wrong.
yeah, tell us in the comments and give us the reasons like why you think Wakanda would be where it's at. And I think Wakanda has to be in Africa.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
if your answer is not that it's if your answer is that it's like in the middle of the Pacific, you're wrong.
You
Like
are.
it is very clearly stated in the mythos that
Yeah.
it is in Africa.
Yeah. Pick whatever Marvel thing you want. The original comic books, the movies, the podcast, like whatever you want to talk about with Marvel. The one thing that Wakanda will claim is that it is an African culture. So
Yeah. And it's almost yeah. Anyways, like I just think I dig it. There was also some really cool ties in Wakanda Forever. Minimal spoiler here to Haiti, some Haitian connections. And if you don't know about the history of Haiti, um, it totally matches up with that kind of anti-colonizer vibe.
cool. I like it.
So
Can dig it. Oh man, good times, good times. Well, Bark, thanks for the question. I like the
yeah,
dig.
no problem. What was my trivia question, by the way?
Oh, are you ready for your trivia question?
Sure.
Barker, 5 universities across our country can claim a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a U.S. president as alumni. Your job is to guess one. If you need hints, I know the quarterbacks and I know the presidents that are associated with the universities. So if you need help, I will help.
So there's 5 right answers.
There are 5 right answers. You only got to get one to prove how smart you are.
I'm gonna go with my gut and say USC.
Incorrect.
Texas?
Incorrect.
Son of a gun. It's got to be the SEC. Flipping SEC. No?
Let me think of my brain really quick. No. Hold on, sorry. No. Nope.
Oh, Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Super Bowl winning. It doesn't mean they're obviously playing a quarterback. It's a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a U.S. president.
Stanford.
Stanford is correct. Jim Plunkett and John Elway.
John Elway was the one I figured, and there has to be somebody smart that went and
Herbert Hoover went to Stanford.
Well, probably not the best one you want to lead with, but
yeah, but I mean, like, still can claim a president.
Sorry, I was thinking national championships instead of
Super Bowls.
Okay, so Stanford.
Would you like a hint at all, like geographic wise? Like, I can give you a hint about after Stanford now.
Michigan.
Tom Brady and Gerald Ford both went to Michigan.
Just trying to think of perennial powers, like where. I'm gonna throw Syracuse.
Nope.
No, sorry.
See, so you got 2 right. Let me think. Yeah, okay. I got my other 3. Yeah. Don't think too hard, boss.
Don't think too hard.
Think about right now.
Notre Dame.
Nope. Think about right now.
Right now, Ohio State.
No. Don't think about the college right now. Think about what the clue is. It's a president and a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Both went to that university.
You telling me it's Texas Tech?
No.
Because that's where Mahomes went.
Nope. So switch. It's not the quarterback. It's the.
Huh?
It's not. If it's not the quarterback right now, it's the
president.
Yeah.
Where did Biden go to college? Shoot. Yeah. He's from where is he? He's from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Nope.
Isn't he?
Nope. It's not where he lives now. It's not what he claims. It's not where he was elected to the Senate.
God, it's not Delaware.
Yep.
Is it Delaware?
Yeah. So University of Delaware claims Joe
Biden
and Joe Flacco.
Oh yeah. Okay. There you go.
Okay. 2 left, and I don't think you're gonna get either one of them. I'll be impressed.
What conference do they play in?
Oh shoot, you're gonna make me do that.
Are there Power 5 conferences?
One is an independent, and I think that's the right term. Yeah, one's an independent. Other plays. Oh shoot. Hold on, stand by. We're gonna. I'm not gonna screw this up. We're going.
An independent? Who the heck is an independent right now? That's not Notre Dame. The service academies. Air Force?
Nope. Good guess, though.
Huh?
Good guess. The other one plays in the Mid-American Conference.
In the MAC.
So if you're on the service academy, you're on the right track.
Army?
Nope.
Navy.
Roger Staubach and Jimmy Carter both went to Navy.
And then the other one's in Mid-America?
Yep.
Is it from Michigan?
No.
Okay. So that eliminates like half the conference. Kent?
Nope.
Kent State, sorry.
Yeah, but I knew Gold Flashes, but I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law goes to Kent State. Shout out Golden Flashes.
Northern Illinois?
Nope. Go Huskies?
Go Huskies, red and black.
Team is also red.
Miami of Ohio?
Correct. Ben Roethlisberger and Benjamin Harrison both claim Miami of Ohio.
Used to be the Red Hawks. I don't know.
It is still the Red Hawks.
Still the Red Hawks. Okay.
Yeah. So congratulations, Barker. You narrowed it down.
Well, it took me a little bit of time, but
that was a fun question though, because there's a Reddit picture that you can find if you want, and I just threw it up there on my classes, and so it shows the quarterbacks in uniforms with their helmets, and then it shows the presidents down below. So just fun fact for you if you want to throw that out to your classes on a Thursday.
Okay, so Navy. Miami. Oops, sorry, I'm touching stuff. Stanford. Oh.
So we hope you enjoyed this trivia. Because otherwise we're going to prolong our video. We added an extra
sorry.
minutes, I think. But that's okay. We'll talk after. But Bark, anything else?
No, I think, well, I guess Happy Black History Month. So like, that was one of the other reasons I kind of thought like, let's talk about this. Like, it's kind of an interesting topic because like there is no right answer, and it's kind of just an interesting debate about like when you look at it, like, is it based on geography? Is it based on, it's like you kind of with more of a geographical based answer, based on like where resources exist.
But I like the cultural response to that. I think that's more important in, identifying that rather than just throwing out a resources available, looking at people and understanding people. And that's, I told Barker, sorry, I just took you off on your train, but I'm reading a book called Talking to Strangers. It's very interesting how little we know about each other and how we think we know about each other. So,
yeah. And so, I mean, it's kind of interesting when you have these people who somebody at some point was like, we need a new comic book character. And so they just like started making something up, and they're like,
love it.
Half the people that live in our country today probably think that Wakanda is a real place, and wouldn't know that Mahonda, Azania, Naganda, and Canaan or whatever aren't real places
Either.
That exist. So yeah, the more you know. And if you have your own thesis about where you think Wakanda really exists or would really exist, please let us know. We'd be interested to hear that.
Yep.
So I other than that, no, I don't really have anything else. I was just
perfect. And for those of you who are our tens of followers that watch religiously, we might be on hold for next week. It'll just depend on we might have a guest speaker. Who knows what could happen? So Sasquatch is making his yearly appearance at Quincy Middle School, and it'll be very exciting. So, but until next time, I'm the Turn.
I'm the Bark.
And we're going to be here a long time. Have a good night, everybody.
Be safe.
And by golly, be well. Wakanda forever.